Hi, my name is Erin.
Hi, my name is Leah.
And we're here to talk to you about macaws. And so for February break, we went to Costa Rica. And in Costa Rica, we went to this rescue macaw center called the ARA Project. They need our help. You will find out why in this video. So here we are in Woodbridge, Connecticut, and we went all the way from Woodbridge to Costa Rica. And why it's so warm there is because the equator is really close to it. So you could be somewhere in Costa Rica and there's different sceneries. You could be in Arenal near a volcano, or you could be by the beach, or you could be in the jungle. So there's lots of different sceneries in Costa Rica. So what the ARA Project does is they try to release the macaws into the wild. But unfortunately, if some of them have really serious injuries, unfortunately they can't be released into the wild. But they still mate. They try to have them mate and have babies, and so their chicks can be released into the wild. So this is the great green macaw and the scarlet macaw. And the great green macaw is endangered. There's about 300 of them left in Costa Rica and 2,500 left in the world. So these two macaws were mainly the only two of them that they had, the two kinds. And so they had a blue macaw, two of them, but they only have two, so mainly just great green macaw and scarlet macaw, and they don't have any yellows. So this is Chris. He's from New Zealand, and he was our guide, and it was only my mom, Leah, and me, and my dad, but he took this picture, so that's why you don't see him. How many parrots do you have in all?
That varies. So we have about 150 adults that stay here all the time, and then depending on the year we can breed. For example, last year I bred 22 scarlets and I bred 16 greens, and they're all for release, so they can all go off and feed themselves and be naughty others. And then unfortunately sometimes we have birds like Eva and Rocky and Bugs that can't be released.
150 adults, and with those 150 adults that they were able to have new babies, which they had 22 new baby scarlet macaws and 16 new great green macaws. And like I said before, unfortunately some macaws can't be released because they have serious injuries, like lost an eye, lost a beak, lost a wing.
So at the minute we're in between release 2, where we've released 20 birds, 17 are surviving and doing well, 3 went missing, but it's still alright. You want everybody to survive, but in reality, yeah. And so we're giving them 3 months with no birds in the cage, and then these guys are going to go down. Now what happened was, when the first group of 10 went down 2 years ago, they were so scared because they'd lost all their friends, they'd all lived in here together, and they were like, where are we? This is horrible. Then, after a year, we brought the next group down, and all of a sudden the macaws were almost smiling because they saw their friends that they hadn't seen for a year, and some of them were brothers and sisters and really good friends, and they were like, wow, we thought we'd never see you again. So it completely changed their behaviours, all of these friendships started, and fights, and no, it's been amazing. So when these guys go down in May, they're going to have this big reunion, they're going to be like, oh my goodness, I thought you were gone.
20 green macaws have been released in the last 2 years that they have, and 10 of these birds in this video will join them in May.
How do you transport them?
In the car. So I put them in the dog crate, 2 birds per crate. I can fit 5 crates in the car, so that's just 10 birds. That's with one in the front seat as well. And yeah, driving down, it takes 4.5 hours.
Chris drives the birds in his car 4 hours to the release site in the jungle. How does the ARA Project prepare birds for the wild? How do they get their food and water?
Foods that they find in the wild, but they're chopped up. When they get to the release site, the biologist feeds them just whole foods, straight from the tree, and he puts them in the aviary on branches so they can associate the leaves with the fruits. And basically, they are so smart and intelligent, they can learn things in a matter of a day.
Here they give the birds chopped up food that they would get in the wild. At the release site, biologists place whole fruits in the trees and in the aviary.
Aha, so when they get released, they have to learn how to find water on their own. And that's normally out of the trunk of a tree. So when it rains a lot, you have these tree trunks that fill up with water. Also bromeliads, which are a type of tree. And they also get a lot of their moisture from the foods they eat, like the fruits.
Macaws get water at the base of trees, and bromeliads. What about the baby chicks? How do they get food and water?
To a place up here called Pavones, which is by a big river, and it's got lots of food. They literally leave the babies there for the day with like minders, uncles and aunties, and they go off and feed, and the babies stay around there playing. And we know that they're playing because they don't eat. They sit there and make all this noise, hang upside down. Then mum and dad come back in the evening, feed babies, and babies go off to roost.
How do they feed them? Do they regurgitate?
So they'll eat a lot of food, so birds have a crop and a stomach. So what they do is they store food in their crops, and they can store quite a bit of food in there, up to about 100 grams, and then they regurgitate that food into the baby's beak. Now when baby's this big, and mummy's beak is this big, oh, how do they feed? So they use the tip of their beak and their tongue to push little bits of food into baby's beak, and the babies are literally just tiny 16 grams of things.
Baby chicks are fed by adult birds that regurgitate their food.
You can see mummy is in the box. Now this is Mr. and Mrs. June. Now their babies are being released in his litter at the moment. So they had babies, 2 girls last year, and those 2 girls are now going off to be released.
These birds will never leave their cage, but their chicks will. Birds like these, held in captivity for more than 10 years, cannot survive in the wild.
People gave them to us because they're like, my macaw's very ugly, I don't want it anymore. So what we did is we got Mr. Plucky a friend, Mrs. Plucky, who's a bit cheeky. And what they've done is they've now started growing their feathers again. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how much more Plucky's feathers are going to grow because he's done so much damage, but he has a tail and a wing, which is what he didn't have when he arrived.
Macaws, like many birds in captivity, will pluck out their feathers. Mr. and Mrs. Plucky will never fly again. This bird broke her beak off.
No, you can't do what she's doing. So she's using
Her tongue.
And this, the
And
cracker.
knocking it. They're smart. So she's taking her tongue and then cracking the sunflower seed open on the middle.
Now, something interesting about macaws is that they have bones in their tongue. So like we have bones in our finger, they have bones in their tongue so they can use it like a finger.
She cracks the sunflower seed against the cage. Macaws have bones in their tongues.
So now all of these guys, they can live up to 50 years, even more in the wild. In captivity, they can live 80, so it's like the same as we did. Now these guys have all come in as pets, people have not wanted them, they make too much noise, So we rehabilitate them, we sex them using blood tests, because you can only tell the difference using their DNA.
So they can't tell between males and females unless they check their blood.
Yep, and then we can see if they're a male or a female. Now each of them have a little ring on them, and each of those rings have a number. So we have a database with all of their information, where they came from, who they're paired up with, how many babies they've had. Hey, you happy? They don't normally see other people in here, so they're all like, ooh, what's going on?
Hello. Hola.
These guys ate nearly all of their breakfast. Hang on. Here we go. Who's that? And they talk as well.
Macaws can live up to 50 years in the wild and up to 80 years in the zoos. They can tell if they are boys or girls through a blood test. They keep a lot of information on each bird.
Right.
She's very old. You can see the age of a macaw, the older they get, the more wrinkles they get on their faces, just like people. So you can see she's very young and she's quite old. So and the babies, when I show you some of these babies, they have no wrinkles, they have these beautiful smooth faces.
Wow, you guys, this is awesome.
The old ones get wrinkly.
And then all of a sudden they start getting what we call their fingerprint. And so
pattern,
it stays with them.
Those little dots of blue. How interesting.
Which dots?
On the backs of their wings,
So you can see on the patch of yellow, and all of a sudden, all of them are just yellow, except you'll get one or two of them at the back there. You can see these dots coming through. And these ones here.
and they are all individual for every single one.
And they keep them throughout their lives. And they get passed on between, they get passed on between mum and dad, so they look like their mum and dad, a mix, just like we would.
There's the fingerprint. Don't make me blush.
Teaching to you. And normally they just ignore or they try to bite, but they're not. Look. And these guys, when they blush in their faces, they really like you.
They are blushing.
Yeah, blushing. And they only blush when they're excited and they're really stimulated, and they're blushing at you. Which is a compliment. Because they normally try to bite you like that.
They like you, huh?
I can't believe that.
This is Kiwi's parents. And Kiwi, their children are at the release site.
Green macaws blush when they are excited.
Now when those kids go home, they say, Mum, Dad, Mama, Papa, look at my birds. You can't catch them. You can't have one in a cage. And so it's the kids that make the difference.
Yeah,
and
like you guys.
You guys make the difference. Because a lot of the parents, they already know, they've learned and they've grown with these things, whereas you guys are the ones that are the next generation that are going to look after these birds. So it's the best way to help is by saying, yes, they're your birds and that you can look after them for many more years. And it works. It's very important.
Sorry.
We can help by keeping the birds free. Macaws are beautiful birds that should not be pets. They should be free. For more information, to make a donation, or to even adopt a bird, visit ARAProject.org. Any questions?